What's good, YouTube? Make sure you check out my website. A link will be in the description and in the comment section. All you gotta do is click the link and it'll send you to the website. But make sure you subscribe to the email for updates without you have to check every day, and become a member on the website. That way you can get the updates and access to all the content. Only tribute, breakdowns, and NBA highlights and rookie analysis only on the website. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. This is coming to you another quick video on the Toronto Raptors. This is a team that y'all see my analysis. A lot of people loved it. A lot of people hated it, but not too many people. Nobody, I ain't get a dislike on the video, so I guess nobody hated it. But they had DeMar Carroll. They had won 30+ games, the #1 team in the East. DeMar DeRozan goes down. Kyle Lowry get back injuries, you know, and everything went toss and turvy in the playoffs. They both was healthy. DeMar DeRozan was playing like an all-around player before the season started. Before the playoffs started. The next thing you know, they go against the Wizards. They put Paul Pierce as the stretch floor, and they lost their defensive identity. They lost their offensive. They were streaky. They didn't have no go-to plays. They was running around throwing the bullshit, and they just couldn't score enough points consistently to outscore the Wizards. And every team that came close to beating the Wizards, you know, Paul Pierce hit them back-breaking shots, whether it was the mid-range, the back-breaking threes. He just broke them down and broke them down and broke them down. And next thing the Raptors got swept. You know, they got swept after that. And it's sad that it happened like that, but they came close to winning a couple of those games, and Paul Pierce just wasn't having it. And he talked all that trash, and he backed it up. But at the end of the day, we're going to talk about the Raptors and what they can do this season to make sure that doesn't happen again, which is get swept in the playoffs. Now, first thing I want them to do, what to expect from them, I'm expecting them to make the playoffs, but I'm not having them as a high seed. I know they got off to a hot start last year and end up being getting home court advantage and all that, but mostly because they had a weak schedule. You know, I'm realistic. I know Raptors fan ain't gonna give me no credit for being honest. They're gonna get mad at me, but it's true. They had a weak schedule in the beginning, and DeMar DeRozan got injured, and then they ended up losing anyway. But their schedule was so weak in the beginning, they just took advantage of an easy schedule and got off to a hot start, which is all fine and dandy. I can't lie about that. You gotta get scheduled. They took advantage of it, and they got home court advantage. Now this year their schedule is decent, and they gonna have to really play some good basketball to get off to another hot start. And if they get to a hot start, I got them currently at 6 or 7 spot. If they get off to a high start, they can easily finish with like 5, 6, or 4, 5, or 6 if they get off to a good start. But if they come out struggling defensively, they can't score enough points like they did against the Wizards and keep losing games early on, I don't see them turning it on enough in the East. Because I think the East going to be better if every team is healthy. I think the East, you're going to have to at least win 42 to 41 games to make the 8th seed in the playoffs, because Miami won 37, Indiana won 38, and they weren't even healthy. They still almost, they was 1 and 2 games away from making the playoffs, and they got a whole new roster and way more talent than they had last year. And Paul George missed half the season, over half the season, and Chris Bosh missed over half the season, and they still was 2 games out of the playoffs. So I think that's gonna make it harder to make the playoffs, because those teams gonna get better. Boston got better, so they gonna be there. Toronto got DeMar Carroll, so they gonna be there. Washington, they lost a player, but they still got, all they gotta do is turn Otto Porter into a spot-up shooter. Cleveland gonna be there. Cleveland, Chicago, Atlanta, all them teams got better or they stayed the same. So you're gonna have to at least win 41, 42. You gonna have to finish above 500 or at 500 to get the 8th seed in the East. So Toronto, I think they can do that. But I just don't know if they can score enough points. I don't know if they can defend, mostly defensively. I don't know if they can get it done defensively, and they got enough offensive versatility to win enough games for me to say that they're a lock. Like, I think it's going to be between Detroit, Orlando, you know, and the Bucks and those type of teams that's going to have to fight for that 6th, 7th, 8th, and 5th spot. And I don't know if Toronto, to me, is in that mix. I'd rather even put the Wizards over them, because all I got to do is turn Otto Porter, like I said, to a spot-up shooter. So I don't really know if Toronto really is a lock to make the playoffs, even though they got 2 All-Stars, because the East is going to be deep, and you don't really know. It's always that one surprise team. Last year it was the Atlanta Hawks. It's always that one surprise team. The year before was the Charlotte Hornets. That you don't, and they got a better team because they got more floor spacing, so they going to be in that mix too. So the Raptors, to me, is not a lock to make the playoffs as the Raptors fans may think. And mostly because they is too predictable offensively. Like, They do too many isolation plays. They don't really have no flow. They don't really have no ball movement. Defensively, they give up. They don't try hard enough for 48 minutes. They slip too much defensively. Allow too many wide open shots. They defense break down too much for the people to get to the paint. And when they get to the paint, they either get to the line, get to the basket, or they kick it out to the shooter like Paul Pierce. That's all John Wall was doing. He was getting to the paint. If he wasn't getting to the paint, he was kicking out to Bradley Beal and Paul Pierce. If he wasn't doing that, he was kicking out to Nene and Gortat for dunks and mid-range jump shots. So basically, the Wizards just had easy points because they didn't really have to work that hard to score because of the Raptors' defense. Just watch the footage. You don't think I know basketball because that's what they're going to say because I don't agree with them. If I don't know basketball, just watch the footage. John Wall was just sitting up there just making the right decision because the defense kept leaving so many holes open. So many holes that all he had to do was make the right pass and punish them every time, and the Raptors just couldn't guard John Wall. And then Bradley Beal kind of did the same thing. So the Raptors got to tighten it up defensively, get some type of defensive identity. They need to get some offensive flow, some offensive versatility, throw out some more different lineups, throw out some different matchups. And if they can do them type of things, they can win more games. Like I said, DeMar DeRozan was coming out to be more of a complete player. Kyle Lowry had his best season in the beginning that he ever had, and they need them to play their best basketball to make the playoffs, but they still need an identity offensively and defensively if they're going to make the playoffs this year, because there's a lot of teams in the East that's going to be fighting for those last 5 spots, 5, 6, 7, and 8. They're going to be fighting for those spots, you know, them last 4 spots. And Toronto, to me, is in that mix with the Charlottes. They in that mix with the Wizards. They in that mix with the Orlando and those teams. They all in the same mix, and they all got good coaches, and they all made the playoffs before. And like I said, Indiana a lot, the Bucks a lot, Cleveland, Atlanta, Chicago. That's like already 5 teams. So you got to fight for 6, 7, and 8. And those teams are going to be fighting for it. So the Raptors fans might not like it, but I don't really think they're a lock for the playoffs like they was the last couple years. And they just start making the playoffs these last 2 years. And they could be on the outside looking in, or just being another first-round exit. But I do think DeMar Carroll is a good addition. He doesn't need the ball to score. He doesn't need to get a lot of shots. He can play within the offense. He can be a knockdown spot-up three-point shooter. He can knock down the mid-range. He can score when he needs to, and it don't really hinder because, you know, Kyle Lowry like the ball in his hand. DeMar DeRozan like to post up. He likes to do a lot of things with his ball handling. Even though he's not an excellent ball handler, he's still acceptable. So with that being said, DeMar Carroll fits they 2 All-Star. He's a good complementary piece with the 2 All-Star they got. Jonas, they don't use him enough, and I think that's what they're going to have to do this season, is utilize Jonas more, because the power forward position is weaker than it ever has been for this roster. So they need to use Jonas Valanciunas a little bit more as a post-up player, as a pick-and-roll player in general, because he can knock down the mid-range shot. He can finish. He's a hustler when it comes to the boards. He always getting offensive boards. He tries hard on the boards, and they just are rewarding him by making him more featured in the offense. And they gave him $64 million. If you're gonna give the man $64 million, which he did earn, you're gonna have to let him play more minutes and get some more touches, so that way he can earn that contract instead of just being a role player. Make him a part of the damn offense, so that way you can get more versatility and more things to do offensively, and make it harder for people to guard you instead of predictable. This guard player one-on-one, he gonna try to beat us 1-on-5, and that's what they basically been doing for the last 2 years. DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry and Lou Williams basically was going 1-on-5 for 2 years. And that's why they always got put out in the first round, and that's why they never was a contender. And I think this season, if they don't make no type of trade at the deadline or before the season, they're not a contender this season to me either. They're a first round to a second round exit. And I think they more likely they get the 6th, 7th, 8th, or even the 5th seed, they're going to be a first round exit unless DeMar Carroll he improved so much that he's a huge difference maker, which I can see because he improved all season. If he's that big of a difference maker, then I can see him getting 4th and probably getting out the first round depending on who they play, because, you know, the playoffs are all about matchups, and the matchups haven't been falling in their favor, and they just hasn't executed enough to win the series. They came close in Brooklyn, fell short because they didn't execute in the last possession, and they fell short to the Wizards without even winning the damn game because they couldn't score enough points. All got to do with execution. So until they find the offensive and defensive identity, I don't see the Toronto Raptors as a playoff lock this season. I think they're going to be fighting for the playoffs all season, and if they don't get off to a hot start like they did last year, they can find themselves out of the playoffs. So let me know what you guys think. Comment, like, subscribe, and share. Quinn Wade Basketball Announcers sign up. If you like the video, subscribe, and if you don't, dislike, because I don't really care. And at the end of the day, if you like this video, like my older video, subscribe. Quinn Wade Basketball Announcers sign out. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below.